Can an MMO make a second first impression? That is the question that's going to be asked ad nauseum about all these MMOs that are in development, including the most recent one that we got to see an announcement from Raph Koster's Star's Reach. Raph Koster is of course of Ultima Online and Star Wars Galaxy's fame, and when we first saw their new MMO from the company Playable Worlds, that is Star's Reach, for many, myself included, the visuals of the game, even in its pre-alpha state, looked, well, rough. Comparisons to Fortnite were rampant, even I think I made some, and I hate that comparison, and quite honestly, you could see it. But this is one of the downsides to showing an MMO this early. A lot of those first impressions, especially visually, can be very devastating, can be very rough, because that first impression tends to stick in the mind of people, at least for a little while, until they see something new. Something new is the other part of doing a first impression like this of an in-development MMO, because you get to show things in progress. This is the bright side. You actually get to show the changes in real time. Well, real-ish time. Obviously these were done long before we got to see them, but we just got a visual update from them that significantly changes the way the game looks. It's also most likely, well, okay, honestly, it is probably like the first of many visual updates, as we'll get into here. It was showcased in a short 4-minute video that primarily leaned on the new lighting and terrain changes, really demonstrating how much has changed in the game from the first view that they showed and the second in just about 2 months since the first original reveal of the game was launched. It's almost like when you have an in-development game and you put it out to people that are going to be able to comment on it and give you impressions at a somewhat larger scale. You can make changes. You can make changes based on that feedback, like along with the core principles that you're going for. And be like, okay, no, this did not work the way that we thought it did. It is perhaps a benefit of being an in-development game that shows off that in-development instead of just launching said game and then seeing the fallout of what you thought was going to work just doesn't work. In the new visual update, the thing I immediately noticed was just how much more toned down things were, especially the grass. But it's much more than that. Everything from the draw distance to lighting looks improved from the initial reveal trailer. And like I said, that's not to say it's done. It's far from done, because there's issues, lots of them still. It's hard to judge some of them, like for example, it's hard to say if it's the recording, the bitrate used or whatever, versus just what's in game, because some of the things in this game look kind of fuzzy. It's hard to really explain it, other than, I don't know, when they morph the terrain, it gets kind of low resolution. I don't know if that's in part because it's not pre-rendered. I don't understand enough about game dev, but it just, something looks off. And for a game that is so focused on the environment and your ability to manipulate it and how it responds to you, the environment itself is going to be a character in this game. It's going to be as important as anything else as far as I'm concerned, because it is so tied to how the game is going to work. Kind of like, I guess, like a Minecraft or an Enshrouded. Basically any game that lets you morph the terrain, you're going to be spending a lot of time looking at that terrain. It matters. And with Enshrouded, a game that uses voxel technology to give significant control over shaping and controlling of the environment, it actually seems to mostly work. It seems like that's something they did well. And I remember how impressive it was to me when I looked at Enshrouded and I picked something off of the ground and saw the grass immediately grow back in a way that seemed normal. Well, sped up, like super sped up, but still normal. Of course, Enshrouded also completely ignores physics, and lets you build monstrosities that go out into the nethers. But you know, it's still a good example of what I would hope they would be going towards as they continue development. They need to have that kind of fidelity, as far as I'm concerned. Stars Reach plans to take this all even further though, by putting some of those missing pieces in the game. Sand acts like sand, rocks act like rock, water acts like water, etc. To put it in layman's terms, basically that those physics that Enshrouded doesn't have, they have, and more. But in this video, this visual update, we just get to see more objects, more locales and various seasons, and even the beginnings of a day-night cycle. Lots more lighting effects and particles, including this one cool little effect from perhaps an enemy of some sort. It all shows the very beginnings of something coming together, and for those who are underwhelmed by the visuals in the reveal, myself included, this is a great step forward, especially seeing them dialing in some of the lighting. They've got a long way to go, of course, especially with like the character models, but they're still deep in pre-alpha. Accompanying the video was a blog post from Raph Koster where they discussed some of the finer points, like how in their initial video, they'd only had about a dozen materials in the world, like 1 or 2 sorts of rocks and dirt, while on the new visual update, they now have 10 times as many alongside the aforementioned day-night cycle shader passes, adjusted contrast, saturation, and more. Work on art and rendering will continue, of course. After all, the video is simply titled Visual Update 1. I wish I could just title my YouTube videos like that. It'd be very simple. MMO News 1. Would you click it if I just did that? Instead of like some alarmist crap like, this game is gonna die! So, I fully expect the visual updates to be coming along as the Stars Reach teams continues to show off more of their development. As a fan of MMOs in general, it's just great to see the development stages as the games go through them, whether it's the Kickstarter MMOs that have been doing it for years, or newer ones like Stars Reach and Ghost from these new devs that are actually old devs. But this is just a preview of the graphic updates of Stars Reach, and if you know nothing about that game, none of this probably matters all that much to you, so you should probably go watch this video over here because it actually explains just what the fuck the game is, and why or why not it's worth getting excited about. There's some potentially revolutionary stuff in there, but there's a whole lot of promise. I don't know. I'm still on the fence personally. I think it could be good. I also think it could be bad.